lost. You know, people stay down there, people come down there all the time. And, you know, what they said was, you know, this is a disturbance, you know, whether or not you like it or not, because you can move it from Falls Park all the way down Main Street, no matter, and that's what they did. All the police came out and they moved everyone from one side of downtown to the other, and it didn't help it any. And I understood, you know, curfew was, you know, they need a curfew. I'm not against it because it's just too much. It's a lot.
Well, Greenville was pretty sensitive about the reputation that their downtown gets. And not surprisingly, I suspect that the crowd they were worried about is a very different crowd from the folks who live downtown in these, you know, $500,000 condos. So I tell you what we didn't end up, we faced a couple of options. One would be to put the video online because, like you say, everybody had it. It was on the TV, it was on Channel 4, it was on Channel 7. Everybody's running this thing. People can go to Facebook, YouTube, whatever. They're going to find this video. And then, you know, in my view, it's a bit of a cop-out to say, well, it's out there, so you know, why not do it? I tried to make that argument many years ago, just to digress a bit. And this may be a little too old of an example, but in the opening months or weeks of the Iraq War, when Saddam Hussein's sons were killed, Uday and Qusay, I think they were called, the U.S. military published very graphic photos of the bodies. And they did it, they said they did it because they wanted the world to see that these two were actually dead, or you know, see for themselves that there's a group of people who would never believe it if they didn't see it. But the photos were so graphic, they were over the top. I made the argument, look, they're out there. I mean, you know, why not publish them? In that case, it was a question of whether to publish them in print or not. And I said, well, I think we'll just publish them in print because by tomorrow morning when the newspapers hit the street, everybody's seen these photos, you know. If they don't want to see them, just, like, don't look at them. I lost the argument. We didn't end up publishing them in the paper. So we could have run the video. We could have done a screen grab and done a still image from the video just to give people a sense of what it was like, what the size of the crowd was. And we did end up doing that, but the overriding concern that I had, that a lot of people had, was if there are people in this image that are recognizable, it's that you could look at the picture and say, I know that guy. And that guy just happened to be standing there. I mean, he just was just an innocent bystander who walked by or was trying to get the hell out of there. The publishing of that image is going to portray him as one of the troublemakers. That's the context that image is being presented as. And we published an image, but only after we pretty much figured out you couldn't tell who these people were by looking at it. It just looked like a massive crowd. Okay, so I'm going to give you another example. I'll go through these really quick. For years and years, we've always published the names of people who've been arrested. It's considered something of a community service. We limit it to felony arrests. We don't do, you know, bad checks or minor kinds of things that almost anyone can be arrested for. But we publish these names. And of course, the people who are arrested are never very happy about their name appearing in the newspaper. But it's kind of a one-shot deal. Your name appears in the paper, next day it's gone. You know, a month from now or a year from now, you would never, no one would ever see that name or find that name again. They'd have to dig through some dusty archive at the library or look through microfilm. So online comes along, and we start publishing these names on the website, but they stay there forever. You know, it's like they never go away. And if Google comes along and does a cache of it, even if you delete the page, it's still out there. So you know, as you can imagine, there are people who, years and years after the fact, are trying to get jobs, or maybe they're running for office, and we've got a story that they were arrested, or they were in the police blotter, and they appeared on our website. You can search by last name, search by address, whatever. It became a huge problem. Ultimately, ultimately, we ended up taking the arrest blotter offline after 24 hours. We leave them up for 24 hours under the theory that there are a fairly sizable number of people who go through pretrial intervention and they get their records expunged. And, or maybe they're just found not guilty. And our old database of that arrest, while it was accurate, you know, they were booked at the detention center on that charge on that day. That's indisputable. They have long since had that record expunged, or they were actually found, they were exonerated in court. And it wasn't fair for us, and we didn't have the manpower to go back and delete specific names or that kind of thing. So we quit publishing those. We put them up the day of the arrest, and then we take them down. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a show of hands, and we'll just do this by vote, unless you want to jump in with a point. So these are sort of hypothetical examples, but they're actually things that we deal with on almost a daily basis. Somebody calls you up, and they said, I was Googling my name, and it came up with a link to a photo gallery that you have online from a tailgate at Clemson, where I was drinking from some sort of beer bong or something. And I want you to take it offline, because I wasn't even 21 at the time. Okay, so how many people take it offline? You know, out of the kindness of your heart, you say, you're right, you were underage, it was many years ago, it was a youthful indiscretion, and we don't want to keep you from getting a job, or taking it offline. That's a pretty sizable majority taking it offline.
See, my class has ethics, Bill.
I don't know if it's ethics.
Yeah, maybe they can. That example's just too close to home.
Bill's up there. Not at all.
All right. Okay, is anybody going to leave it online? All right, what's your argument?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not because I'm a hard man, but I just wouldn't take it on. Sorry. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't do it.
I'll say that we do this. I don't think we have a clear-cut rule on this. I think it's a case by case.
I had a similar situation. I went to a club, and you know how they have like photographers set up, and I took a picture, you know, with the drink, which I was 21 with my friend. And then someone called me and was like, "Hey, you're on this club website or whatever."
Yeah.
And it was a picture that I had paid for, you know. And
was
so
your name on it, or just
no,
a
my
picture?
name, it was just a picture of me. And so I immediately got upset, and I called the club owner. I was like, "Why is my photo on your website? That's like me going to Sears and take a picture and then they use it in a billboard, you know, without my knowledge, you know. Don't use me for advertising." And so he was real nasty about it. "I don't want to take it down, blah, 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 goodbye," you know, hung up. But I kept being persistent. I went up there every single day, like, I'm going to be teaching in the year. Do you think I want my freaking picture up there with the drink in my hand?
Exactly.
So I was just so persistent. So he was like, "Okay, fine, I'll just take it off." But are there any, like, is there anything, like, illegal about that? Like, somebody just can take your picture and just post it on their website? Like,
Well, from a news standpoint, we operate as a news gathering organization. We operate under slightly different rules than everybody else. And for us, it becomes whether there's some news value. If an event is occurring in public, there's some news value for us being there and covering the event. We have every right to publish that photo. I'm talking about people who are 18 or older. In a case like, now, we could not use that image in one of our advertisements to say, you know, check, say someone from advertising who represents that establishment calls me and says, "Hey, they want to put an ad in the paper."